Hi everybody, I'm Amy, this is my wife Maggie, and together we are ThinkerThemer, and today we're doing a preview for you of Conservas, which is what? A
solo-only game.
Solo-only game. So what am I doing here?
Controversial.
Good question.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Well, we're excited about this game for a number of reasons. It made our most anticipated games of the year. Number one reason, it is by Scott Elms, amazing designer, who has actually designed the only other two games that I've ever played solo.
Yeah, this is true.
Not by design, just so happens that he's always involved in with these solo games that just intrigued me enough to give it a go.
Yeah.
The other reason is Salt and Pepper Games. They had two of our top 10 small box games of last year.
Yes,
they
did.
we are watching... So, that sounds really creepy. We are watching Salt and Pepper Games closely to see what they're going to do next.
Yeah. Actually, and one of them was Witchcraft, which is a solo game as well, and it just like that was my number one. It hit it out of the park as a small box game.
Yes. So, and the biggest reason,
reason
why I'm excited about this game is the theme.
Oh,
who am I? I'm the thinker, not the themer, but the theme here is incredible. I love the fact that it's called Conservas, which is kind of a play on words about the conservation of the ocean as well as conserving fish in a can. And I loved tinned fish.
Oh, you really? Yeah, she really does.
It's all about that industry, but it also has a great message. Anyway, that's enough preamble. Just one thing to note, that this is of course a prototype copy, so everything you see here in this video is subject to change, including the rule set. But now let's get into it.
So as Amy said, in Conservas, we are going to be running a commercial fishing operation. And so we are going to very humbly start with just one little fishing boat. But over the course of the game, our aim is going to be to build up potentially our fleet and obviously catch a lot of different fish, not just fish, but just sea life, mussels and oysters and even octopus, to then turn into delicious preserved tinned fish cans that we're going to be selling to a market, and also make some money with that, buy other boats along the way, and potentially make some upgrades as well, which we're going to be doing by exchanging some of these. They don't actually need money. It's like we can just trade some of the fish that we've caught for some of these upgrades. And we're going to be doing that 1 month at a time. So each month is its own kind of challenge and scenario. And by the end of it, there are some key goals that we want to hit, not just sometimes financial goals, but also conservation goals. We want to make sure that we leave enough of the particular different marine life in the ocean. If we haven't done that, we're gonna fail.
Now, how are you getting all of this done? Well, through a bag building. So that's the key mechanic in this game. And the way that it works is, as Maggie mentioned, every scenario is a month of the year. So we start in January, and January is going to tell us what to add to the bag to start with. So in the January scenario, we will start with €10, and then in the bag, there will be 5 sardines, 5 scallops, and then 10 of these plain sea tokens. In January, we are going to have 7 rounds of the game, and every round you are going to be drawing things out of the bag, these tokens. You're going to be drawing them out 5 tokens at a time. Once you've pulled out 5 tokens, you have an important decision to make. Are you going to place them onto one of the boats that you have and you only start with 1? Or are you going to release this entire catch into the open water to allow the ecosystem to continue to breed and give you more fish and sea life in the future? If you do decide to put your catch onto a boat, well then you have to put the catch according to the capacity onto the actual boat itself. So for example, I might choose to capture this sardine and this sardine because this boat has a capacity of 2, and then I would put all of the water or leftover sea creatures underneath the boat to show that I'm throwing them back into the ocean. You then continue this process until you've filled up the open water as well as all of your boats. So now, because I have no boats left, I have to put this catch into the open water, and then we move into the phase where now we can spend the catch that we've put aside. So on my boat I have 2 sardines, and I can use these in a number of ways. I can simply take them off to the market. So in every scenario we have a market page that shows us what people are willing to pay for these different types of for canning these different types of sea life. So we have this sardine that we want to conserve, turn into a can. You can see here that this requires 2. In order to do that, we just simply turn one over to show that it has a little ring top, and now it's canned. We'll put this here, and that will earn me $3 into my bank. The other thing I could have used these for instead of taking them to market is I could have spent them to get upgrades. These upgrades give you one-off abilities or some abilities that are going to activate at a certain point every round that are going to help you achieve what you need to get done. The final option available to me is to buy a new boat. So the boats have different levels of capacity, enabling you every round to draw 5 more tokens and potentially keep more of them to sell or use for upgrades. But they also have an amount of upkeep, so you have to be careful not to get too many boats too quickly, because every round you're going to have to pay that upkeep amount. Now here's the fun bit and the bag building element, but once you're done spending your catch on upgrades, your money on boats, or you've gone to the market and made some extra coins, then you get the opportunity to see all of the sea life that's been left over in the open water or underneath your boat, i.e. the catch that you let go, gets to breed to further bolster the sea life that's in the bag and increase your chance of catching them, and also meeting your conservation goals at the end of the month. The way this works is you simply tally up the number of one particular type of sea life that you have. So this is scallops here. I've got 2, and it's always the total minus 1. So here, because I have 2 scallops in open water, I would add another scallop to the bag. But because I only have 1 sardine, unfortunately, it wouldn't be able to breed. And then at the end of this round, I will pick up all of these tokens, put them back in the bag, shake it up, and away we go again. This continues until you've completed the number of rounds of that scenario, and then you're going to be checking against the standard or difficulty level of completion, which is not only around how much money have you earned by the end of the scenario, but also about your sustainability efforts. You need to tip out everything in the bag and make sure that you've met the conditions of having a certain amount of sea life left over, which means that you're always trying to balance what are you fishing and catching to make money and what are you putting back into the bag. So that's the fun tension in this game. And of course, there are other scenarios that get more complex that require you to have a certain number of boats or upgrades, but that's the basic structure of the game.
So let's talk about our experience playing this game. And when I say our experience, Amy actually got to play this as well.
I got to play it. I was the one that I opened it and I learned it before you.
I didn't have to be like, oh, I think you might like it.
Absolutely did not. It came in and I was like, I can't wait to get this to the table. And part of that, as I mentioned, is all around this theme that I absolutely love. It is brought to life beautifully with the artwork. The artwork is stunning. I love this like old cannery style artwork that has like a very almost, it's like a very Spanish feel.
Yeah, it's like a very vintage kind of like the artwork that you would see in some of those tins, like the sort of Spanish or even Portuguese tins of seafood. There's also little puns on the names of the boats, which I enjoy. But yeah, the variety of these, and obviously each one of these upgrades is unique. And they actually do have a thematic link between what you're kind of putting in there and what they actually allow you to do. So I thoroughly appreciated that.
So I really enjoyed that too. And then I hit January and my goodness, I thought that it was just because I don't play solo games, but this game really made me scratch my head. I have not played a solo bag builder before, let alone solo games, and it was so hard. But I was so excited by it. I just kept wanting to reset and play again. And then of course Maggie started playing, and then it became competitive about, even though it's not, it's a solo experience. We're like, oh, she's like, I'm up to March now. What are you doing? I'm like, I'm still in January. But January did take us both a little while to crack. And I was actually happy to hear that before we filmed this video, we reached out to the publisher to see if any changes had been made at all, just broadly. And they did say unprompted that January had been mid a little bit easier. So I was grateful for that, because I do think it was quite a confronting first experience that was very, very difficult to crack. But it did teach you a lot of mechanics about like how you really need to balance that that kind of, you actually need to do a lot of the breeding of the sea life before you start to use the catch for other things. So it was a good training ground.
Absolutely, and that's very thematic. If you empty out the sea before the sea has had a chance to actually do its thing, then you're gone. Like that's like you can actually end up halfway through the game going, I actually can't.
There's nothing left in the bag.
I've overfished the sea.
Yeah.
So I actually really love that you're like, no, actually I need to be responsible first and almost like give back before you.
And I also want to talk about what happens when you do overfish the sea, because if you get to the point where you run out of tokens in the bag, you replace it with extra ocean tokens, which means that actually you are just diluting your bag and having more and more ocean in there, which sometimes is useful if you're trying to not outfish the ocean, but it's not very useful when you're trying to get things to breed and now you're just pulling out ocean every time, and that's not very helpful at all.
Yeah. So what makes this game so tricky and challenging as you go through? It's the fact that every time you pull out those 5 tokens, you have to allocate, you have to decide at that point, where am I allocating these 5 tokens to? Is it going to go into the open water? Is it going to be into one of my boats? And also, which boat is going to be going into once you've actually seen what they are. So for example, if I took out a whole bunch of tokens and I'm going, oh, I actually want to make sure that I leave enough in the ocean to breed, I might actually end up, I have to put 2 tokens on my boat because it's got a capacity of 2. So I might actually want to put water tokens there so that I can leave the sea life to do its thing. Or I might pull out a hand that's full of sea life and go, actually, this is really great. I'm going to leave that in the open water. However, one of the things that becomes that sort of tricky thing. If I only have one boat in open water, I'm not drawing out that many tokens, and so sometimes having more fishing boats out means that I actually have more opportunity to draw out more things. Yes, sometimes catch more things, so have a better catch, but also it gives me the opportunity to leave more things as well in the ocean. So that becomes a really interesting balance.
Yeah, and the fun thing about that is that it actually becomes a push your luck element, because you are having to decide when you put something in the open ocean versus on a boat. And once you've committed to that, you can't change it. And so what's really interesting is if you needed, for example, 3 scallops, because this round you really want to go to market and take those 3 scallops. Well, the first time you draw 5 tokens out of the bag, there might be only 1 scallop in there. Now, is that enough to commit to putting it onto a boat that perhaps has more capacity than just 1, and therefore it's like you're not leveraging those spots? Or should I just let those ones go out into the open water and risk the fact that I might not get the 3 scallops that I need in future draws? Or I might just draw the next round and get 5 scallops. So you are pushing your luck to work out the optimal combination of leveraging the boats and the open water.
So I'll also talk about the relationship with these puzzles and how things kind of evolve over time. I did find that these puzzles do vary a fair bit in that the core mechanic of what you're doing stays the same, but the actual objective and more importantly, the rules around how you're going to be fulfilling your orders are very, very different. So it's their own mini puzzle. For example, in this one, each one of these rows has to be filled in from left to right. There are others where it's about adjacencies. There's others where you actually have to do it in a particular sequence. There's others where it's almost more like a pyramid, where you're having to kind of build the base areas before you kind of go up. I also love that they always have a little flavor text as to why, almost like a thematic explanation of why that puzzle fills in that way, which, it's just like a nice little touch.
It's not a narrative game,
no,
but there's
it's not.
certainly a little bit of flavor text to give you some sense of purpose.
Exactly, yeah. And then what I found was in the earlier months, I was very rarely using these sort of the upgrade cards. But as the months went on, and obviously one part of it is like becoming more comfortable with the game and how it all kind of plays, but also just the nature of those puzzles meant that sometimes you're like, oh, actually, this is going to be really essential for me, or that one is going to be a game changer, or I just happen to have leftover catch that I can't actually use because none of the spots are valid for that combination. So I might as well get this upgrade. And all of a sudden now you're like, okay, let me see what happens. So I really enjoyed the evolution with that. I also found that they were varied enough that I didn't get bored going, oh, here's another puzzle of like, no, it was very much this is intriguing. Okay, how do I do this? What I'll say is at the end, so as you're going through them, and I found that the difficulty kind of varied in the sense of, and I think this is going to connect a lot with how you think or how you approach the scenario. Sometimes I was like, oh, I actually did great in that one. And sometimes I would just get stuck in one going, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like, how do I crack this? But ultimately what I find is once you do crack one of those puzzles, yes, you have the difficult goal level. Sometimes I was able to do that. Then I found that I have no real interest in trying to do that puzzle again. It's like, yeah, okay, I feel like I've done that. And so obviously this game is coming with 12 months. So 12 puzzles. So my question is, what would happen after? I think at the moment I've completed more than half of them and passed them, as in successfully passed them. What will happen once I've beat all 12? I feel like I'll probably then be like, well, I kind of would either need more puzzles. So I don't know if they're going to have some kind of expansion or even digital kind of content that gives you new challenges, or otherwise that would be a point where I would have to be moving the game on.
Play through it once and then maybe give it to someone else.
Yeah, and I mean, when I say once, it's like you're probably going to have to be doing some of these scenarios multiple. And for the size and type of game that it is, there's quite a number of hours in this box.
I agree. It is a small box, and so we've got to go in with that kind of lens. But I found that the game is challenging enough that I wasn't cracking these scenarios first time, not even on the 5th time. I was having to play and play and play. For me, obviously, it's a very different perspective. I don't usually play solo games. I was really drawn into this one by how challenging it really was, which just activated the competitiveness in me against myself, being like, why am I not beating this? And so I played it and played it and played it. I have to say that mechanically it is like, it's a little bit one note in that it is really all centered around that resource management and the bag building element. And of course, as you go through the scenarios, the puzzle becomes a bit more interesting, but you really are just constantly drawing out and putting things back in the bag and drawing them back out. And that combined with, the lack of interaction, obviously, because it's a solo game, but I can't fault the game for that because that's what this is. But I do think that it's actually a really intriguing puzzle that I enjoy playing a lot. And I just think there's so much, just like the rest of the Salt and Pepper games that we've played, there's so much thought that's gone into making it like thematic and making it beautiful. The components are lovely. Just that little touch of flipping the token over and then it's got the little tin symbol. That's just really cute. It's really great.
I really like the tactile nature of it, in the bag, and when you're shaking them in the bag, like the sounds and all of that actually feels really, really nice. I think this is going to be a really great hit with a lot of solo players.
I agree. Actually, I think for the difficulty of the game, the rules overhead is really light. So you can be up and running really quickly. I basically, didn't have to think too hard about how I was explaining how this game plays in this video because it's quite straightforward. And the mechanics of it doesn't get harder. It just means you need to think more about the strategy of what you're doing. And so to be able to even set a friend up and to give them a quick overview and then for them to be up and running and playing this game, I think that that's going to be really accessible to people.
That's a great
really
point.
Nice.
I think this is going to be an excellent game for potentially introduce people who are non-board gamers and people who are probably not ever going to be kind of hardcore board gamers that are going to really just find this fascinating because the rules overhead is so light, like it's so straightforward. So overall, this was a really, really intriguing and fun and engaging experience. So that is our preview of Conservas. We hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.
And we'll be back with more board game content soon. But otherwise, bye for now.
Bye.